This is the Bunton Retrofluor Model 2. As you can see here, it's being mounted on a copy type stand, and it's got easy interchangeability with stands of your own choosing or of your own construction, in that we can mount this main cube housing and the Retrofluor onto one of three sides with 1/4-20 bolts. So the system foundation is this cube arrangement here, actually a cube housing that takes the interchangeable filter cubes. These are extremely large USA made filter cubes from Chroma with, in this case, we have a GFP filter set mounted in the cube with the exciter filter, dichroic beam splitter, and emission filter all built into one nice cube housing that is easily mounted onto a dovetail fixture and locked in place. So the filter cube slider housing fits into the main cube housing and then is secured with 6 small bolts, hex key bolts, that we can lock on. I won't do all 6 of them for now, but you get the idea how these are easily interchanged. Another option to this Retrofluor 2 is to use LED illumination, and we have a whole family of products using the LED modules, but this is fine to keep the price low and keep it very compact in design. As you can see, this is the vertical illumination port, and the first filter that it's hitting is in fact the exciter filter for the fluorochrome method that you'll be using. There are both biological and industrial applications here. Mounted to the front of the main cube housing is a special USA made microscope called the KC module, and the KC has internally focusing infinity corrected optics, so we can fine-tune the focus here. We can move the whole microscope with camera at one time with this unit, or we can even mount the unit on a microscope like support stand that you would use for a stereo microscope. So here's our sample down here. It's a stained cement slide, and we'll be looking at that here in a moment, but I wanted to go over the interchangeable optics. We have a series of special low power macro lenses that are quickly interchanged by simply threading them on and off, and they have very specific fields of view and working distances. The other thing we can do with this particular macroscope is to adapt it to microscope objectives. These are infinity corrected long working distance microscope objectives that are readily available from any of the manufacturers. And now all of a sudden we go from the macro range to the micro range. Now we may end up being a little closer to our sample, but we also have a higher magnification, smaller field of view. So fully interchangeable macro or micro optics. The other feature with this is we can mount on top of the cube housing a dual port beam splitter, and that dual port beam splitter allows us to quickly go from, say, a focusing eyepiece to the camera, or we could even mount onto here a tube adapter to use a DSLR camera, or we can mount it or set it up so that we have the cube housing or the mirror housing set up for both DSLR and for a small format camera. So that's the diverter cube, diverter housing. option. The next thing we want to show here is the fact that we're using LED now. This is a very modular, compact, high-intensity LED 5 unit from Volpe with variable intensity. Has an RS-232 port on the back, so we could even control it through software, control the intensity. And we simply slide this adapter in with a glass fiber optic guide, or you could even use a liquid light guide, depending on your application and requirements. So now when we go to the unit to look at the fluorescence excitation on the sample, we simply screw on a lens of choice. In this case we're using the macro lens 3.5, and we can quickly focus our sample with the focusing block, or we can fine-tune the focus with the internal focusing. So that's basically the Retrofluor Model 2. It's been totally updated now with all USA technology, and the camera that we're using is the latest state-of-the-art 5 megapixel CCD camera with 2-stage Peltier cooling. And this particular camera is very reasonably priced. It uses the Sony sensor, and it makes a great way to inexpensively do your digital image capture, image processing on a standard Windows operating PC. So that's it. We invite you to contact us with any questions. The Retrofluor Model 2 is available from authorized representatives here in the United States, and we thank you for your time and attention on this.